Welcome everyone. In this video I'm going to tell you about the time I almost got lost in the middle of the province of Quebec in the middle of the winter. Welcome everyone, it's Joe time. I have what I think is a fun story for you today. This took place several years ago, at least 6 or 7 years ago. Quite an interesting tale, and it happened in the province of Quebec, Canada. Now, let's start out by saying I do not speak French, and most of the people in Quebec are either bilingual or French speaking. It's a predominantly French speaking province. And I had some business in one of what they call the First Nation villages. Here we would refer to them as the Indian reservations. Up there, that is not considered to be an appropriate term, and they refer to it as First Nation village. And this little town, I think, if I recall correctly, it was called Ojibojimo, was the name of this little village. And this was in early February. And I remember this so vividly, and I'll tell you how this relates in just a minute. But I remember this because it was during Valentine's Day. And I was there during Valentine's Day. I was only going to spend one day in the village. And so I flew into Quebec and I got a rental car. And I remember thinking, I'm driving, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 hours. I don't exactly recall, but I remember it was a healthy drive north from Quebec City. And I was kind of concerned, it's the middle of winter, there's a lot of snow on the ground, and I wanted to make sure I didn't get lost. So the first thing I did is I created Google Maps. Now at the time, I did not have an international cell phone, and when I did use international, there were areas that were so desolate, it didn't work very well. So I brought along my GPS. And I really don't use it too much anymore because I just use my cell phone. But back then I used to have a standalone like a Garmin or a TomTom GPS. And I brought that. And then, just to be double sure, you know me, I often use this term. I say that I'm a belt and suspenders type guy, meaning I like to always have a backup. And I thought, okay, I've got my Google map. That's going to tell me how to get there. I've got my GPS. I added to that, and I also rented a GPS with my rental car. That way I thought I'd have two of them going and I'd have a Google map. And I drove, headed out. I stopped at McDonald's. It was all in French, so I just ordered, number deux, or whatever. I got something. And that was my meal for the day. And I started heading up because I didn't run into anything, pretty much nothing for the rest of the trip. And finally, it's getting to be nightfall. And I say nightfall, it's probably only 4 in the afternoon, 4:30, but it's in February, remember, so it's getting dark early and dusk is falling. And I got to a town. It was the wrong town. And I'm seeing the sign, it's in French, but I know it's not where I was supposed to be. And nothing was open. Everything was closed. Maybe it was a Sunday, I don't recall. Nothing was open. But I wasn't in the right place. 3 different devices all took me to the wrong place. So I stopped, I found a policeman, and I flagged him down. I don't know if he is a Mountie, a Royal Mounted Police, or what he was, but I pulled him over. He didn't speak English, and I didn't speak French. And I kept pointing, and I was saying, Ojibojimo, Ojibojimo. And he only spoke 2 words in English that I understood. He kept waving me down the road, and he was saying, Big Wood, Big Wood. I thought, what in the world does he mean by Big Wood? And now it's starting to get dark. And I said, okay, thank you. Off I go. I'm thinking it's getting, now I probably wasn't going that far at all. But when you have that anxiety and you're nervous and you don't know where you're heading, it felt like it was an hour. And I'm driving down this road and it's getting darker and darker. Things are just turning into silhouettes and shadows. And suddenly I see a sawmill or a lumber mill. And I see all of these logs piled up. And I thought, Big Wood. And I'll tell you, I don't know why I did this. There was a road there and I turned. I remember I made a left turn and I drove and I drove. And suddenly it opened up into this little village, a little town, and sure enough, it was the place. And in this First Nation village, they had one motel and one restaurant. And this was, there might have been more, I don't know, but I didn't see any. And the restaurant was in the motel. So I checked in, and it was really a neat looking place. Once again, if I can find pictures, I'll show them to you here. But it was really a neat place because it kind of looked North Woodsy, like you would imagine a place in the middle of the province of Quebec to look. And I remember taking my camera out and doing a 360 because there was a big lake and there were a few people that were out there, snowshoeing, and but it looked like there was nothing completely surrounding the middle of this village. And what I remember about it, it was Valentine's Day. So I went down for dinner, and the only dinner option they had was, I guess some version of a Chateaubriand, a dinner for two. Because I guess anybody who's going to be romantic and go out to dinner that night, this is the only place they could come to. So that's all they had. They had one option on the menu. And so I had to order the dinner for two that night. And whatever their version of the romantic dinner was. I will say that was interesting. Everyone spoke English once I got into the village. So that was quite interesting. I had my dinner. I spent the night, and the next day I took care of what I had to do there with the people there that I was doing work for, and then I had to drive all the way back. And the way back was scary because it started snowing, and it started snowing heavily. Now the good news was I knew where I was heading. The bad news was the roads were slippery, and it was I wouldn't say mountainous, but very maybe foothills of mountains, very hilly, so you're going down steep grades, very narrow roads. Suffice to say, here I am, so I did make it. But that was quite an interesting trip and an interesting adventure. And as long as we are going to be in a lockdown, I think I'll be sharing some more of these stories. I hope that you enjoy them. Please let me know by leaving a comment down below. As always, I encourage you to comment, like, and share the videos. If you're not yet subscribed, please click my face in the corner to do so. And ring the bell icon up above. That way you'll know when I post new videos. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'm Mark, and this is the Average Me Channel.